Hello, Saints Nation. So we are gonna. Well, this will really be the last 2024, the season that we wish never was. Piece of content. So, just like we did with Bijan last week, gonna go ahead and review the defense. So pretty much the same format. All the most relevant players here, their contract status. I'm gonna grade them out. Some spots talk a little bit about possibly who I might like to replace the player with, or at least the archetype that would like to see there. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and get it started. So the first player, we're just going to kind of take these in order here, is Paulson Adebo. So Adebo is a unrestricted free agent. So first, just kind of grading him. Um, I think he's quantifiably a good player. I think the question with Debo is essentially, is he a CB1? Probably not. At least not a high level one. But he's a very good CB2. And if it's him and Kool-Aid on the outside and you have Alante, obviously we'll talk about both those other guys, you know, you have Alante on the interior slash a strong safety role or something like that. Like you can work with that. Definitely creates turnovers. Plays hard. Teammates seem to respect him. Fortunately, obviously, the broken leg, like that's going to significantly negatively impact his market. I don't know if he's going to be that expensive to bring back. I mean, if he is, then Saints aren't in a position to just throw money at the wall, especially when you're not really competing for anything. And I don't think he's a foundational piece. But I think he's a really nice rotational player, and I think he is above that contributor threshold. Like I think he's a plus player. Another unrestricted free agent is Ugo Amadi. He exists, so he's a depth guy. He's a special teams guy. He's not a bad player, but he's the kind of guy where you're really kind of hoping that he never sees the field. Played hard, did some good things, but you kind of got a reminder of why he's not a starter when he was in that. Shamar Jean Charles, developmental player. Obviously, some of these are going to be faster than others. Um, Showed some nice things in preseason. I think the team was reasonably decently high on him at times. But on the flip side, like you also you weren't really beating out not great corners on the outside. I mean, if you can get him for a veteran minimum or something, like probably not a bad depth piece, but like I'm probably not going to pay him anything more than that. Um, Kool-Aid is, I think he's, obviously he was a rookie last year. I don't think he was good enough as a rookie to be in a position where we can say he's a contributor. Like I think Fuaga was. Um, I think in the very limited time he was able to be on the field, Bub Means, I think probably showed more consistent good things than Kool-Aid did. But it's not like Kool-Aid was terrible. And he did show, especially as the year went on and as he got more snaps, showed a lot of ability to be in phase. Showed a lot of ability to, play the position. Again, I don't see him as um, a guy who is a CB1. And that's not really about his like draft spot. Like you get a CB1 in the second round or the seventh round. Like it's about your play. Um, I just don't see the athletic profile to be that top corner. But I think he's probably going to be a really, really good um, number two corner for them. And look, he's only 22. Like that's got a lot of value. Um, Not a ton of tread on the tires. Lots of time to grow and develop. Good, reliable players is an underappreciated asset. Like, I actually think the Saints roster has a decent number of those. Not a ton, but a decent number. It's really the lack of stars that's the biggest problem. And again, like I said, I would bring Paulson back on like a 1 year or even like a 2 year, 1 year with a ghost year, like something like that, like a short term deal, like a prove it deal, chance for him to reset his market after the injury, and let him and Kool Aid kind of presumably be the starters. And I actually think that could go you know pretty reasonably well once we get a head coach and figure out who the defensive coordinator is going to be. Next guy on the list. So, Rico Payton, not a free agent, looked really good during preseason. Um, Played really well on special teams for the most part. He's interesting. Now he's 25, but he's interesting. Um, we'll see if he ever becomes anything, but he's. I think he's. There's enough there. Maybe he could be something like as far as like an actual contributor. Um, and the Saints are kind of in a perfect spot to find out for that. Like you have a lot of old vets you need to get out. You have some young vets that are going to be expensive, like a Debo, or potentially expensive. Having young guys that are developing into contributors, even if it's just on special teams, but especially like if he can be your backup outside corner, but also a special teams demon, that's a really valuable player. Um, so now we're getting into one of the three most frustrating players on the roster. If you look at the first, I mean, if you look at the first 2, 3 weeks, and like Alontae Taylor looked like he was going to be an All Pro. Being fair to Alontae, you start on the outside and show some flashes as a rookie. Now you get, you know, then you get issues. Now you get moved inside. Year three, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, and you start off amazing. He accepted his role. Maturity and attitude issues seem to be a thing in the past. Like, really, really played well. Injuries happen. Has to play on the outside. Played worse on the outside than he did as a rookie. Now, maybe some of that is coaching. Maybe some of that is he was so focused on the inside. Like, I'm sure there's some context there, but just a wildly inconsistent player. And like, peak Alante, he's a good player. Like, he's a borderline great player. Like, he has all the tools to be a great player. Like, and I don't mean this quite literally, but like, Alante Taylor has all the tools to be an elite free safety. The tackling, the frame, the speed, the closing, the range, like all those components. Even good instinct, especially when he's coming downhill when the ball's in front of him, like great instincts for that. If only he wasn't dumb. I don't know any other way to put it because I don't actually think he's a dumb player. Like he doesn't understand the playbook. I think it's more of and again, like not the actual term, more of the, I don't know, colloquialism. He has no attention span. He has ADD on the field, and it bites him in the ass repeatedly. He just constantly gets caught looking into the backfield, not playing his leverage properly, not passing off routes. Like when he was playing on the inside, I don't know. Maybe it's because he had enough things to focus on. Like maybe it's just an attention span problem. I don't know. I'm not in the coach's room. Um, He'd be pretty focused, and and then you move him outside, and just doesn't play the ball well, panics in the air, gets grabby, like overcommits. It's like you look at him and you go, God, it could be a great safety. But if he has these type of like read and judgment problems and not paying attention and not playing the right leverage and being out of position and all the other stuff, like those are you can't really do that anywhere. But the place you can do that the least is safety. The nature of the position is in the name. You're the safety valve. So I'm actually going to put him as exists, and he should be a great player. He should be, good player designation on here. He should be a blue, but he exists because that wild inconsistency and him being kind of, but without the kind of terrible for most of the second half of the season once he moved outside. Like I just he's been around too long to really call him developmental. He's got too many snaps. He's just kind of there. It's just kind of wasted potential. Like I'm rooting for the kid. I hope he turns it around in his final year. I think the best case scenario is either he goes to, again goes to safety or stays in the slot, crushes it, has like an all pro season, and signs a deal somewhere else and gets us a comp. Like I think that's probably the best case scenario for him. Christian Boyd is developmental. Um, I would love to get some explanation around it. I thought he looked good in preseason. I thought he looked good in his limited snaps early in the year. I thought just from a frame, athletic profile, position perspective, he's the exact type of player you would like to stick next to Brian Brzee. And he basically didn't play the entire later half of the season. Like it seemed like he got a penalty, I think, in the game against the Eagles, and was in the doghouse ever since. And all the coaches just didn't want to play him, and that extends even to Rizzy. And I understand that there's veterans, but once you were like 2-8 or whatever it was, I'm sorry, like I don't care if Bink is going to be bothered because he's not starting. Who gives a shit? Bink is not part of the future of this team. He's not a core segment of the rebuild. Like, he wasn't playing well enough to warrant, like, demanding all the snaps either. Didn't at any point in the season. Like, look, he had one of the funnest plays of the year. That interception was a ton of fun. But, like, outside of that, this kid should have been getting more snaps. But, we just didn't, he's a rookie. We didn't get to see enough. He's developmental. Brian Brzie's a good player. Full stop. I do not give even the tiniest of fucks what PFF has to say. First of all, their grades are trash. Largely, like you're sure sometimes the grades will agree with like every other possible way you could look at the game, and it's like, okay, cool, this grade is right. But as a general rule, the grades are worthless. Their process is not really very good. Um, Not gonna get into all that right now, but like they're kind of a joke, frankly. Um, Brian Brzee is, without context, a positive, impactful player for this defense, and within context, a positive, impactful player for this defense. That simple. Um, does he have things to work on? Absolutely. Does he have areas for improvement? Absolutely. Does he need to be better against the run? Absolutely. You also can solve a lot of those issues by simply getting a nose tackle next to him that'll help you against the run, get you some more of that push, and also give him like a player with a pulse that actually like moves bodies and creates openings for him to go be athletic next to, and like he can go have another, you know more than 5 sack season, which as a defensive tackle is a lot and is a very 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 good year. um get the fuck out of my face. Easiest grade of the day. We followed up the second easiest grade of the day with the easiest grade of the day. Get Foskey out of my face. What a terrible pick, especially when we know that the people who actually know football in the Saints war room were banging the table for Brian Branch. Oh, how has he been in Detroit? Oh, only amazing. Oh, by the way, our safeties are old and bad, and they were old and bad then too. Like just that alone, get him out of my face. But also, like he's a nothing player. Like if unless a guy has incredible tape, like referring to the previous video that I just put out, how to draft players, how to project players. You're drafting a guy from Notre Dame. There are positions where level of competition matters. Offensive, defensive line, cornerback, not quarterback, quarterback, I actually don't care about level of competition. I care about how they're producing their numbers and how they play, not where. Um, Level of competition absolutely matters for offensive and defensive line. When you're playing against not the big boys, and then you start playing against the big boys, all of a sudden, all those cleanup sacks turn into DNPs. Welcome to the Fosti experience. Carl Granderson is a contributor. So, relative to the Saints roster, he's a good player. But these grades are based on like more of the NFL and the expectation they're in. Like a good player is a league wide productive quality player at their position. Like that is kind of the threshold or above. Again, same thing as the offense. When you're as bad as we were last year, you don't get any great players, but Brzee would have been the few that would have got that designation on defense. Um, Carl Granderson's a good player. Cam Jordan is a he exists now. Like he's not a get out of my face guy. I mean, his contract is that extension was stupid at the time and made no sense. We're going to talk more about stupid extensions that made no sense here as we get towards the bottom of the list. But like Cam's washed, and it's not that he brings no value. Like Cam is still valuable in the locker room. He should towards the end of the year, especially when they like let him actually like be a technician of a defensive lineman instead of like let's just run a trillion stunts and the occasional blitz doing dumb DA stuff that doesn't work. Not going to rehash all that again. He was fine. Tano has nothing to do with him. I want to put a get out of my face, but really it's like he exists. Like don't resign him. Like stop bringing back meh like players. I thought Ridgeway was good. Ridgeway was definitely a contributor to me. Again, another guy I thought should have played a lot more snaps. Um, I, I I won't say like all of the snaps, but I think a lot of the snaps that went to Bink probably should have gone to him. You know, and he was a guy. If you remember, they traded for him, and then he pretty much didn't play until after Rizzy took over. I thought he was good. I thought he made some plays. I thought he was definitely a contributor. Um, Happy to have him back next year, and let's see if he can make a case for staying long. Saunders exists. I don't have it. I actually really like him as a player. Like I think he's like as a the person, like the personality. Like I think he's super entertaining. Um, Again, like he had one of the most fun plays of the season with that interception, and like trying to run it back and showing those old high school running back skills, and like great personality, entertaining dude, all that. But like if we're just talking on the field, which is what we're talking about, like he's meh. Like he didn't really do anything. Like this is a we have a ton of these. He's he's a guy who can be a quality player when he's placed on a really good team, but he's not a good enough player to meaningfully contribute on his own. And he's certainly not a good enough player to meaningfully contribute or elevate others around him. Get Captain Gator roll out of my face. Wasn't a good player, wasn't a good signing. 31 years old, perfectly fine with them releasing him or whatever they have to do. Um, like, bye. Peyton Turner, you know what? Get out of my face. Like, the Saints are probably in a position where they have to bring him back potentially. Like, sure, he's 25 and he's a first round pick, and like, there's all these things to say about him, but like, you really look at it, it's like, yeah, he's a 25-year-old first round pick who's never really played a full season, never really meaningfully contributed in a statistical way. And the best thing we can say about him is he's got a really great picture of him dunking over a goalpost. Like, that's it. I'm just done with like, okay, we don't have any contributing defensive linemen, so sign him, you know, for a vet minimum or something if you can get him on that, sure. But like, um, he's probably going to command more than that, and yeah, he's just not worth it. Chase Young's going to be too expensive. Also, Chase Young is infuriating to watch. Um, Chase Young is like he's the bull in he's the bull going against the rodeo clown. It's the bull never actually hits the damn clown. Like it's just ole ole all day long, just running past the quarterback. Like one of the biggest reasons why the Saints were one of the league leaders in the absolutely meaningless on its own pressure stat was Chase Young pressured in quotation marks quarterbacks a decent amount. You were just not helping. But he didn't really contribute. That's right. We don't like Chase Young. Um, yeah, I'd get him out of my face. I'm just tired of watching him. He's frustrating. He's infuriating. He's a wasted potential, and he's going to cost way more than the Saints should even think about paying him. This one hurts. Mario exists. Like he wasn't awful. He's certainly not a get out of my face guy, at least not for on the field reasons. He's 35. He'll have games where he's impactful, but he's not the player he once was at all. And he's just not a cornerstone of your defense anymore. Like he's good enough to be on the field, but he's not really a super impactful player. And he had a few games where like he'd make some plays and he'd have a pretty nice Demario game, but like over the course of a 17 game season, he ain't got it anymore. Jalen Ford's developmental, like rookie, he got hurt. Nothing more to really say about that. Willie Gay did nothing. Terrible signing. Like it looked good at the time, but like with the benefit of hindsight, terrible signing, did nothing, absolutely no reason to bring him back whatsoever. DeMarco, he's technically a developmental player. I mean, this is his last year on his rookie deal. He's never really gotten to see the field. I'm not 100% sure that he's worse than some of the guys that play over him, but he certainly hasn't been good enough to just outright take anybody's job. Orgy actually, like, he's also developmental, but he's interesting. I actually really liked some of what we saw from Anthony Orgy. Um, Seemed to have a little bit of juice, plays really hard. Um, Definitely a guy. I, I would like to see him get some opportunities next season, especially with a fresh coaching staff, and hopefully us not being married to bad decisions we're holding on to just because they were bad decisions. Speaking of bad decisions, why the hell does this number say 2027? Oh, that's right, because we gave a linebacker who's been going backwards performance wise since his rookie year a 2 year extension for absolutely no reason. Meanwhile, we gave that linebacker that extension so that we could say we didn't have the snaps to offer the guy who went to the team that's in the Super Bowl, who's got a real shot at being like defensive player of the year. Yeah, there's a reason this coaching staff got fired. What a bunch of morons. And again, Mickey Loomis is an idiot. It's a dumb contract. It's a dumb extension. It's for no reason. You extended him early. This is a player you could really argue would have been worth an extension at the end of his contract if he maintained his performance. You gained nothing. You just guaranteed him money and added more money to your cap for a not even above replacement level player. Dumb move. Personally, get him out of my face. Like clock in, clock out, Pete. I'm sorry, I haven't been impressed by guys accumulating tackles 7 yards down the field since I watched Curtis Lofton play. So, you know, that's where I'm at with Pete. Will Harris, he exists. I actually would like to bring him back. I thought he was a solid player for the team. I think you need solid players. Again, like we need stars. This is actually a really good draft for safety. We'll talk about that more over the next couple of weeks, but there's a lot of safeties in this draft. I'm a big fan of, and people who watch way more film than I do or also agree with that. They just have a longer list than me because they know what they're doing, or it's their job, or both. But he is an exist level player. I don't necessarily think we can call him a contributor, but I do. I do like him. That was me shooting my cat. Don't worry, she's fine. It's a Nerf gun. She thinks it's hilarious. Howden, get out of my face. Um, he had a solid rookie year, and he's been downhill since then. And Honey Badger is get the fuck out of my face, and that fuck is all caps. Uh, I have not jokingly started calling him Sugar Possum because Honey Badger is one of the most entertaining, impactful, superstar defensive players, both in college and the pros. Honey Badger was that dude. Sugar Possum, he gets stiff armed and thrown out of bounds and ran over and ran behind and just generally doesn't really do much because he's 32 and like his body isn't what it once was. Like he's not a dumb player. Like it's just this is what happens. It's it's all it is. Like he's just not that guy anymore. And watching a legend be kind of a turd in the punch bowl, not actually fun for me. And also, like, again, another guy they extended for absolutely no reason. Extending Tyron made no sense. Extending Pete Warner made no sense. Extending Cam Jordan a couple years ago made no sense. These are bad contracts. This is, again, Mickey Loomis is bad at his job. These are not above replacement level players. You were not close to competing. You were not close to a championship. You were deluding yourself and you nuked your cap. That's what happened. Um, that's that is where I feel that we are for the defense. Um, if you agree, wonderful. If you disagree with any of these, we'll be interested to hear in the comment section what any of you guys think. Hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to hit the notification bell, like, comment, subscribe, do all those wonderful YouTube things. Always appreciated, and more coming for you guys soon.